Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
I was going to say, welcome back to another episode of Coffee Break. This is Liam back in the seat while Rohan's away. This is an epic episode.
It was good. A lot of people might not realise, but Mark Dundon may have influenced coffee or specialty coffee more than anyone in the world because he founded St. Ali, and that, at the time was just doing unbelievable things. And then he's done Seven Seeds, and that's worked out tremendously well as well. And just his approach to buying coffee may have influenced Melbourne. Now, Melbourne, from then till now, has been acknowledged as the best, if not the best, coffee sort of scene in the world. And he's been right at the forefront of that. So to interview him was really an achievement for us in this podcast.
Absolutely. I almost feel it was kind of amazing listening to the story and the history and everything. Like you're saying, he was at the forefront. It's not even that. He pioneered it. He was the captain of, one of the reasons that Melbourne has its name, right? In coffee. When you talk about third wave, so they say that specialty coffee has had waves of things going on. And the third wave, I think Mark really pioneered it and was at the forefront of it and sort of still lives and breathes it. It's so refreshing to kind of hear him still pushing for so many healthy elements of business for someone who's so successful and has kind of history across the industry. I think, he's the person calling the industry out when he was the one that's also helped it grow to a point where, people are getting into it for the wrong reasons and everything. He's still the voice being like, that's not good enough, or that, what I mean? Well,
here's the impact report. And, I guess I hold this up and say he walks the walk. And when very few people do. Yeah, some interesting takes and all of that. And I guess like one thing I find so interesting about Mark, for him, he focuses so much on buying coffee correctly, sourcing and buying coffee correctly. And that's what Seven Seeds, that would be their crown strength. They're one of the best roasters in Australia at doing that. Forging the relationship. And I think one interesting thing that he mentioned there was that kids on the farm in countries of origin for coffee, they're finding it less and less attractive to be coffee farmers.
Yeah, that's right. I kind of wrote that down as well. It's like just that sentence from the pod today, him being like, there's less kids wanting to farm and more wanting to be graphic designers, and that access for them as well, like, to tech in general, is an interesting take that I'd never even thought of, It's like, everyone that kind of we rely on getting their hands dirty, kind of have more choice now.
Yeah.
It's like, do they actually want to? And it's like, how do you make that more appealing, or like, how do you maintain that entire kind of ecosystem in a healthy way?
And I guess what he mentions there is kind of, I saw there were two sort of threats to the coffee industry that I sort of thought about and reflected upon during the episode. One was what we're talking about now. The sustainability, I guess, in terms of the appeal. So it's hard work for not necessarily a significant financial gain. That's enough to turn anyone off wanting to do it. And then, of course, the environmental threat. So just how hard it is to grow coffee, the changing climatic conditions in countries of origin, and how that will influence things in the future. Those two things are a sort of a bigger threat than we realize. And I guess we've been speaking about it for a long time in the industry, but I kind of see now it becoming more of an issue. And in so many industries, not just coffee, we're seeing price increases. But I feel like this is the one when there's a big price increase, it makes the news. You know what I mean? Like there's always, the $6.50 latte. Yeah. People look at their pitchforks out. But
I really thought about, because I got time back there to ponder. I feel like you're on your toes when you're in the hot seat. But I realized that there's such a kind of difference between like people's idea of coffee and flavors in general. And what I'm getting at is that, like, when you say, I want an Ethiopian coffee or something, you have the assumption that the product that you're going to get is the equivalent to like a strawberry milkshake. It's like this is exactly what I'm going to get every single time. But I feel like a disconnect between the fact that it's a seasonal product and that you were talking about Kenyan, like, do you call them? Yeah, it's a Kenyan blend, like these Kenyan origin beans, like every single year is going to be a different, profile.
And they're one of the roasters where you would really see that the most. So coffee roasters like Seven Seas and Market Lane, for example, you see the same coffees on their menu year in, year out. And sometimes I think to myself, well, maybe that's boring, but it's really not the same coffee in a sense. Like, you're not tasting the exact same thing year in, out. And in some ways, it's probably good to see the progress year in, year out.
Totally. And I guess that's where like the transparency comes through. And would like, I would think it would help kind of ease expectations, of as a customer, being like, oh my God, this blend came from this farm that went through an earthquake. And it's like, there's a switch up on climate because of these reasons. And it's like, but would that cost, I guess, more money to get to that point?
Well, I mean, I guess what he was talking about during the podcast, you have to sit on that stock for such a long time. So you're really supporting the producer, and that's a commitment that goes on for years. And, the next year they might not have the same level of harvest, or they might have produced too much, or you might not be in a position where you really want to do it, but you've committed to buying it and you're working with them. And I mean, I don't operate at that level. He does. He'd know far more about it than I, but, I guess him and his business partner, Bridget, really invest a lot in doing that and trying to do it well. And they're, in a way, like, I envision a world where coffee supply becomes something that's so important where, so for example, if, the entire crop in Brazil is eradicated or under threat. He's got this relationship with this guy from Guatemala. Hey, I stuck by you through, the tough times. Now, like, you should do that for me. And I guess the relationship works two ways. Maybe there's a world where, climate change or some political factor affects the supply of coffee. It's like having these relationships might actually guarantee your supply in a world where there's a shortage of coffee. And one of the things about the commodity market is when there's demand and there's supply. When supply is low, obviously it means demand would go up, prices go up. So maybe there's an element of that going.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is like me saying it out loud. I feel silly. I've got, the impact report in my hand, which is like a booklet he's created about the transparency and more so I'm just realizing is celebrating those connections to the roasters and the farmers and the people that, go through everything, and it's celebrated. It's like, I think that's amazing. Like, and it might, I don't know if there's like the younger crowd listening to this, but like these are, I don't want to say they're the sponsors, but they're the voices, they're the brand deals, they're the personalities that are tied to your business. And it's like, this is exactly how I guess we do it. It's like showing who the quarterbacks are,
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of the point where I was trying to make, where I feel like we don't do the digital side well, connecting to producers. I'd really love to see that. And it's not so much about stroking our own egos or, you see so many baristas out there and businesses, they post long, lengthy posts about their coffee, which is great. And I don't want to discourage anyone from doing that. But the way to connect with people, people have such short attention spans these days. I feel like it's not necessarily what we should be doing, morally you might argue, but maybe it's something we need to be doing to inform people. And a lot of any transaction is justifying it. And, if we're to say to people that you need to be paying more for your coffee, then we should justify it. And that could be in the form of, one, making a better coffee, two, informing them on what it is that informing them on what case we're trying to prosecute here. So informing them of the plight of a producer sort of thing. Maybe that's sort of where we need to get to.
I think that's fantastic. And I think it should be an expectation, to be honest. you don't get the product without it. So like, why not celebrate how it came to? I was just going to throw you, him talking about like co-ferments and stuff like that. We've had a few guests on the pod now who are completely pro. We're talking about like...
Myself included.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of it, right? It's like funky flavors are getting introduced, they're additives, they're everything. But today he seemed absolutely anti it, and more so maybe the title that comes with it being like, it's better because of.
Yeah. Well, there's I both agree and disagree with him because I never want to live in a world where the person that co-ferments a coffee wins the cup of excellence, and the person that goes to so much effort to have 100% no artificial, a coffee that's not been influenced in any way. I'd hate to live in a world where the co-fermenting producer or the anaerobic fermenting producer beats him. I mean, maybe including anaerobics in that is unfair, but...
Can I dumb this down again for the listener? Like... are we kind of talking about like when we say co-ferment, that's like we're adding additional flavors and things, sugars and stuff like that. Does co-ferment kind of lean towards adding kind of like unhealthy parts of consumables? Like as in, are we adding chicken salt? Are we adding MSG to make it better?
No,
is that...
From my understanding, there's no health detriment to it. It's just Do
you think that it's like one step away? You know what I mean? If what's selling is this amazing cherry-based fruity coffee, and they co-ferment it with like cherries and stuff, and then someone makes that almost incentivizes someone to be like, cherry's selling. Let's just like chuck in some like fake.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it will encourage producers to do more things like that, and it probably already has. And maybe they put things in their coffee that they don't disclose that they do, and that's a bad thing. But where I would say having a co-ferment that's completely transparent is a good thing. A lot of the time, people get coffee and they roast it. It's not done particularly well, but they say it tastes like, for example, orange passion fruit and elderflower. Yep. And then the consumer gets it and they think, well, I don't taste any of those. Whereas with a cinnamon flavored coffee, then you're really, it's pretty hard to not tell the cinnamon in there.
Yeah.
And this is where I think they play their role, is that they invite people into the industry that wouldn't have otherwise sort of had an invitation, I guess you could say. And like coffee's so hard to do well. And let's read what we've got on the back of here. Bright and elegant with notes of raspberry, apricot, and sugarcane. So this is one of the 7 seeds coffees from Peru. What if someone else gets this and they're not as good at roasting it and it doesn't taste anything like that? And you're trying to convince a customer over the counter, it tastes like raspberries and passion fruit, and they're just like, well, I don't fucking get this at all.
Yeah,
that's where I see the co-ferment sort of playing its role. Do I want to see it winning competitions? Not really. Do I want to see it winning Cup of Excellence? No.
So you see co-ferment being better because it's easier to produce or control an outcome, as in the brewing, the cooking of it. What you get out of it is easier to obtain?
Well, I mean, if you're infusing a coffee or co-fermenting it with, let's say, passion fruit, it's going to be pretty hard to not taste passion fruit.
Right.
If you're same with cinnamon, it's going to be pretty hard not to taste cinnamon. So I wouldn't say it's better. I want to be on the record right now. Would I prefer a well-processed geisha that's completely conventional over
natural?
Yeah, over a strawberry infused coffee. Yes, I would. I'd much prefer the geisha. And would I prefer an 85-point Caturra that's been well grown? I've got this natural Caturra from Bolivia on the menu at my shop at the moment.
Bolivia, your favorite place?
My favorite place. But it is one of the best coffees I've had this year. And it's so excellent. And, like, for example, we have a co-fermented coffee available for milk every day at our shop. So right now we've had cinnamon on the rotation for about a month. We've got a few more weeks to go. And then we have our house blend. I drink the house blend every day. I have the cinnamon once a week. So, I mean...
I was also, when you said, Bolivia's rocking at the moment, maybe we should be the ones that are starting to say this year's, harvest is good from Bolivia. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, absolutely. I'll
year
champion the cause.
specifically.
But, Bolivian coffee almost went extinct in 2013. The massive leaf rust event, and a lot of coffee growers in Bolivia would prefer, and as Mark was saying, a lot of coffee growers actually grow other things. So in Bolivia, a lot of coffee growers grow the coca plant, which is used to make cocaine. And in Bolivia, it actually has a lot of cultural significance. So people will chew it, and it's used for all sorts of remedies and things like that. But so
sorry, just on the substance chat, when you brought up the meth reference from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I loved how in depth you went, and him going, yeah, I'm not sure I want to connect those two too closely.
Well, I feel strongly about that analogy. But anyway, Bolivian coffee, this is one of the best harvests it's ever had. And when I went there, there's really only very few people that produce coffee in Bolivia. So there's the Rodriguez family, and there's a bunch of growers under that umbrella that submit their coffees to sort of a station who process it and then sell it to us. And then so they grow that in a region of Bolivia called Caranavi, which is so hard to get to. When I drove there, it was one of the worst experiences of my life because, I was so jet lagged. It takes 5 hours to drive 100 kilometers, and it's just bumpy. It was raining at the time, so it was rock sliding down the cliffs. You're fearing for your life the whole time. So, and the way they drive over there as well, it's just like, woo! They follow the road rules. It's just such the fact that they can even export coffee to me is amazing. And, then there's one really big farm in Brazil can outproduce in weight the entire specialty crop from Bolivia.
God.
So, tons of coffee. One farm in Brazil can outproduce it. So
it's not much of a competition. Hey?
No.
Yeah. Just to go back on the flat, you were saying you would go all natural for a coffee choice. And something just kind of stuck out with the pod is you guys chatting about aging of your coffees. And I think that's such a hack that and I've thought about it, I think I've come up with a way to make this normal. And I think our packaging needs to be a bit clearer because we treat coffee, we put a use by or a roast date. Exactly. But I'm not the best with numbers, and I'm from the same. I figure it out. I'm okay, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we're in a bracket. But I think that should be part of the labeling of coffee because that could, like you were saying, that the people that make it can change your experience, right, of the coffee that you take home. They might just not know. They might not have the education on how to make or brew a coffee properly. So let's dumb it down even more, where you've got a line on the side of the coffee goes, have it between these dates.
That's an excellent idea.
You know what I mean? Yes, have a roast date, but then have a pocket for where the roaster or recommend to try it, or similar thing, have a scale that's if you're having it, you know what I mean? This is what you're going to be tasting further down and what you should expect, from an older kind of roast.
But people listening to this, if you make lattes at home and you buy a blend or something from a cafe, from a roaster, and it's 2 or 3 weeks old, they've done you a favor.
Absolutely.
So, that's when your coffee for milk starts to peak. If you're getting coffee for filter, I mean, nothing wrong with getting it at 2 weeks. You want it aged a bit. If it's too fresh, then, if you want it to be at its best, then you have to wait time. But if a little bit of age doesn't hurt too much, of course, we don't endorse that.
Yeah.
But a little bit of age, especially for milk, they've done you a favor. So at my shop, we wait 3 to 4 weeks before we serve the coffee. We age it a bit. So
I love hearing all the co-ferments. How is the cafe going?
It's going well. It's tough, and we're starting a business in tough economic times, and then Melbourne really drops off in the wintertime, or it has this year, in terms of both visitors and people wanting to sort of come to the city.
Because it's freezing cold.
We are experiencing a cold snap right now in Melbourne.
I'm avoiding showing my hands just as I'm...
But so that's been challenging, but I think, what I've learned from opening a coffee shop is, and Mark touched on this as well, it's not really about having the exceptional fit out. It's not really about having the exceptional machinery, although we do have exceptional machinery, and I love having that, and it helps me do my job better. At the end of the day, making people a good coffee that they'll come back for is the single best thing you can do for your business, and having good service as well. Just being nice to people and making them good coffee. That will keep them coming back. And that's the thing I've learned.
Service is king, man.
And it doesn't necessarily mean like blowing it out of the park and, you know, making sure all the parameters, just having things set up so you're in a position to make good coffee. Because I had this business called Sub-Zero Coffee before. And basically we would sell, you know, we would have coffees that were $15, $30 sort of thing. And I'm mostly focused on that.
Very much.
It was great, made great coffee, but it's not what kept people coming back. It's just having that sort of
connection.
The connection, but having the repeatable coffee that people can afford and you can sell more of. It keeps the people coming back.
Well, I kind of want to, but just bringing it back to your cafe today, do you have any like goals you're hitting? Like, what's your weekly goal? And we can like, I want to check in on you next week and be like, are you struggling on anything in particular that like I feel like other people could kind of connect with you with?
Well, I'm going through a period right now where my sister who has been working for me has just moved to Ballarat, so 2 hours away.
Lives her own life. Independent lady.
But that, and then one of my other staff members has got a family matter that he's traveling for this week, so we're short on staff that I would usually have. So I don't actually need to hire someone because when Todd returns, he'll we don't need to hire anyone either.
So staff this week is
so I'm working big hours,
right?
But I'm also moving house this week. And so
life and stuff.
Oh man, just trying to keep up this week is, then we record a podcast, Rohan's away. So we're manning the fort here. Yep. So I'm just so stretched in this week. Every single day is busy and then every single night is busy. So I'm just,
all right.
So it's just a bit crazy. And next week I'll take it a bit more chill, but man, I'm feeling it this week. I'm so tired.
Hey, well, I know you're going to get through it, and good luck moving.
Thank you.
We better wrap this up, but I'm going to check in on you next week, and I know you'll get through it. Yeah. And I want you to kind of, I'll remind us, but any takeaways from let's see if you find a way to overcome this. Obviously, not just by you putting your head down and working for 9 people.
Well, if I can go for another movie reference, do you ever see the film Whiplash?
Yeah, of course.
Remember when Miles Teller just rocks in after he's been in a car accident to perform on stage? Maybe I'll do that next week. Okay, maybe cool. I'm just looking half dead, but no, I'll be fine. Shop's doing well.
Okay, amazing.
Just working hard.
Hell yeah.
How do people contact us?
Well, you just email us at hello@itsjustcoffeepod.com. With any thoughts on any episode, on anything, we're going to be checking in, and we'll get back to you soon. When we've got enough kind of responses and things, we're going to chat with you guys. We're going to respond, and I'll put this man in the hot seat. So
and 2-friend rule applies. You got to tell 2 friends to listen to this. And if those 2 friends tell 2 more friends, you can see where this is going. We want to make this as big and as great as possible.
Like Mark said today, it's all about networking. If this happens, scratch the back. I scratch yours. So thanks for listening to another episode of Coffee Break. We had an incredible podcast today with 7 Seeds and the founder of the Melbourne coffee movement. I want to say now.
The Godfather of Melbourne coffee.
The Godfather. Thanks again.
Good to see you, dude. Boom. Thank you. All through my coffee break time.